Leo! First of all, may all of our efforts benefit all beings. We're now in Leo. Leo begins approximately July 23rd and goes to August 22nd. It's a very sunny, warm season, and these are some of the fundamental qualities of Leo. This is something that we've developed. It's called AstroDharma, and it's a combination of Western astrology based in Jungian archetypes. So that's based on, say, Greek myths, where we have the different deities like Venus and Mars and Jupiter and so on. So a combination of that together with Dharma. That's the teachings of the Buddha. So in AstroDharma, we use Western astrology and Western archetypes and our natal horoscope, the astrological chart from the time we were born. We use those things to help us spiritually unfold, to help us get as close as we can to enlightenment. Scratch that. This is Leo. This is to help us get awakened in this lifetime for the benefit of all beings. Okay, so Leo. So as mentioned, Leo is warm and sunny. Leo loves to be the center of attention and will do anything to be that, to get that attention. So the thing about Leo is if these qualities sound familiar to you, then Leo is probably prominent in your birth chart, in your natal chart. And if these qualities do not sound familiar to you, then they're waiting to be developed. There's probably hidden talents and qualities there that are waiting for you to discover them and bring them out. They surely exist in your life somewhere because we all have Leo in our charts. And the goal, if you could say that in astrology, because we've got all 12 signs, we all have all the planets, it's to learn to find balance, to learn to stand in the middle and be able to draw on all of these energies and archetypes. And that has a lot in common with the Buddhist middle way. Okay, so you can learn more. Leo loves to be generous, and we love to be generous too. After all, we're cultivating the qualities of Leo. And so to this end, we have some free resources available to you if you'd like to learn more about AstroDharma. So please check out planetdharma.com/AstroDharma to learn more about that. And please accept our gift with all of our leonine affection, since we're in Leo mode. Please feel free to type in any questions that you have in the chat, and we'd love to answer them. It gets more fun, and Leo is about fun, after all. So every sign is ruled by a planet or a celestial body. For example, the moon and the sun are not planets, so I say celestial bodies. Every sign is ruled by a celestial body, and every sign is associated with a house. And Leo is ruled by the sun, and it's associated with the 5th house. So we'll go into those a bit more too. So what else can we say about Leo? Sometimes you can spot a Leo. Leos are very creative. Leos are sort of like the divine child of the zodiac. And when I say Leo, that's not just if you have sun in Leo, then we say you're a Leo. But you might have a lot of other planets in Leo, or you might have something else prominent in Leo. Maybe your ascendant is in Leo. So we have other ways where we manifest a strong Leo. So Leos have a lot of creativity. Leos are affectionate. Leos are generous. Leos like to be the center of attention. And Leos have a natural dignity. They have a kind of munificence, and they have natural leadership skills because of this, because people like to turn their attention towards Leos, and if Leos draw on that to give good direction, then they're natural leaders. So if you think back in history, there's Richard the Lion-Hearted, for example. So we can see how these archetypes play out in human history. Richard the Lion-Hearted, that meant that he was brave. Leos rule the heart. Every sign pertains to a different part of the body, and Leos have to do with the heart, with the spine, and also overall vitality. So there's this notion of kind of shining, of splendor with Leos. And as pertains to the heart, and Richard the Lion-Hearted, Leos can be courageous and come from the heart. So again, if these qualities resonate with you, then check out what you have in Leo. And if they don't resonate with you, they are waiting to. So check out what you have in Leo, and we can use AstroDharma to untangle why these energies may not be manifesting in our lives the way that we'd like them to. I've been listing the really great qualities of Leo so far, but of course every sign has a spectrum of wonderful qualities all the way down to pretty not so nice qualities. And so for Leo, and then this is what we use AstroDharma for too, is to draw our attention to, oh, in this sense I'm manifesting the less wholesome qualities of this sign, and we can untangle that, find out where those influences come from, often aspects to other planets, which are often related to childhood conditioning. Remember, this is all based in Jungian psychology. And so we can untangle that so that we can choose to manifest the finer qualities of all of the signs. And for Leo, those are pretty fun qualities. So the not so nice qualities of Leo, well, depending on your perspective, Leos can be a little bit lazy. And Leos can be really good at, we mentioned that sort of regal quality of Leo, so they can kind of sit back and lounge on the couch and just kind of watch as all of their royal subjects do all of the work for them. And Leos tend to hide their wounds. They're very proud. So if Leo's hurt, they may not tell you. And Leos can go and lick their wounds in private. We said that Leos are very courageous. So if our Leo is not well placed or well aspected, are things happening in Leo, then we can manifest the opposite. We can manifest cowardice. Leos are slow to get angry. They don't hold grudges, but when they're upset, they roar like a lion and can be very formidable foes that way. It can be very frightening. Yes, Ava.
Hi, Keta.
Hello, this is our videographer extraordinaire, Ava McLean. Thank you, Ava. Yay, Ava.
Woo. I have a question around, so I have Leo in the 12th house. It's my rising sign. And so I was wondering if you could talk a bit about what that might look like, or how to work with that, because I've heard about sometimes people talk about, like, if Leo's in the 12th and it's more unconscious, but then is your rising sign how you show up? And so
Yeah, that's a good question, Ava. So our rising sign, that's our ascendant. So that's the sign that was on the horizon at the time of our birth. It's the sunglasses that we look at the world through. So you probably experience the world in a Leo kind of way, creative and fun, and so it depends probably on how much of Leo for you is in the 12th house and how much of it is in the first house in terms of, so the 12th house is the unconscious, as Ava referred to. So we'll learn about that more when we do our Facebook Live on Pisces, which is related to the 12th house. And then the first house is really so much our identity, we don't even know it's our identity. It takes us a while to figure out, like, oh, not everybody is like this. So you would have a sense yourself, I think, for which side, how you straddle that line of the ascendant, which of those that you manifest. But that's a great question. The 12th house is truly elusive. It takes a lifetime of plunging the depths of our psyche to bring out the 12th house in a conscious way. Good question. Another thing that we can use to find, so you have no planets in Leo, do I hear that correctly? Okay. So when we don't have planets in a sign, that sign may not be as pronounced for us as signs that do have planets in them. However, it's still an active energy in our psyches and in our natal charts in our psyches, really. The natal chart's like what we call a map of the soul, or a map of this lifetime. So the way that we find out more about what's happening in a sign is to look at what's happening with the sun. And your sun is in
Taurus.
In Taurus. and what's happening in this case in the 5th house, in the associated house. So for example, you could have, I don't have any planets in Leo, but I have 2 planets in the 5th house. So that's how my Leo tends to show up more. And when I piece those things together, I get a fuller picture of Leo for me. And anyone can do that. Is that good? Or would you like to pursue that? Okay. Okay, so please do feel free to pose questions about Leo, the sun, or the 5th house in the chat. And if you'd like to learn more about AstroDharma, check out planetdharma.com/AstroDharma. And we have some free gifts there for you. Okay, let's talk a bit about the sun. So the sun, the ruler of Leo, the sun, if our lifetime is a hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell so famously described and Luke Skywalker depicted in Star Wars, then the sun is the hero of our journey. And so it's really important that we know about the sun. It is one of the most important parts of our chart because it shows us the nature of our hero and the nature of the gifts that our hero brings to this journey and the nature of the challenges that our hero or heroine is going to face on this journey. And so the journey is it's our entire lifetime, and it's also depicted in our astrological chart. We can see in our astrological chart the kinds of themes that are going to be relevant for us in this lifetime, and we can see the different kinds of things that are likely or unlikely to happen in this lifetime. It's not prescriptive, but it is very descriptive. And checking out the natal chart is a really great way to help us better understand what's happening in this lifetime and what our options are, especially when we face challenges. Yes.
So we have a question from the lovely Sarah.
Hello, Sarah.
So she's asking about her daughter, who she says she is Leo with a Sagittarius, so I think a Leo sun, Sagittarius ascendant, moon in Scorpio, and MC Virgo. How can I support her as a parent? What should I be aware of? And thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Okay, so Leo sun, Sag rising, and Scorpio moon?
Correct.
Do I have that right? Oh, okay, that's interesting. So, thanks, Sarah. So Sarah very rightly named the 3 most important things in our astrological chart, because astrology is vast, like any wisdom tradition, and it can be challenging to juggle all the different elements of astrology. However, if you can only know 3 things, then you want to know the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. And that can really tell us a lot about a person and how a person is going to manifest. And so Veronica's 3 elements, or 4 if we include Virgo on the midheaven, is very typical. There's a lot of contradictions in our charts, and when we first get into AstroDharma, we think, oh my gosh, these things are completely contradictory. How am I ever gonna sort these out? And if you're like me, that sounds a lot like life, right? We get thrown lots of curveballs, a lot of impossible things happen, and there's no guidebook for how we can sort these out. And this is where AstroDharma is really great, because it is a kind of guidance, a kind of, for sure, a resource. So in Veronica's case, what I'm referring to is she's got a Leo sun, which is warm and open and friendly and adventurous, and then which goes really nicely with a Sagittarius ascendant, because Sagittarius loves to explore and go see what's over the next hill and what is life all about. So those 2 go really well together. Now Scorpio moon, however, Scorpio is very reserved. Scorpio likes to keep its cards very close to its chest, and Scorpio feels very vulnerable. That's why it has that very potent stinger, is because it's actually got a very soft underbelly. And so all of these things are going to be operating at the same time in the being. So it's going to be a little bit like a tennis match, you know, like playful and fun one moment, and then kind of going off to a room and kind of sulking another, which would be scorpionic. So it's just good to know about these things. There's no right or wrong. And again, each of us has all of these things in our chart. So we can definitely have empathy for one another, because whatever someone else has going on, we've got going on too, maybe just in a different configuration. So if you'd like, that's a general overview, Sarah. If you'd like to follow up with that, you're welcome to ask more questions in the chat, or we can talk about it sometime here at the amazing Clear Sky Retreat Center where I am now. Okay, and if you're just tuning in, we're having this live stream on Leo, ruled by the sun and associated with the 5th house. And if you'd like to learn more, please check out planetdharma.com /AstroDharma. Could you type that in the chat, that link? Thank you.
So we have a question from Martin.
Hey, Martin.
Martin is asking, how would you use moon in the 5th house effectively?
How to use moon in the 5th house effectively? That's a great question. Thanks for tuning in, Martin and Sarah. So I think I know what you mean by this question, and just for other people who are watching, is keep in mind that as we become more conscious, as we learn more about AstroDharma, we can learn to make better choices about how we manifest these different energies. And that's what Martin's indicating with his question. And it's important to remember that these energies are really using us. And so, again, they're manifesting in our lives all the time. And it's just about developing greater awareness of what that currently looks like, maybe how that was built so we can unravel it. And then, as Martin's pointing to, then making better choices about how we could use that energy and how we'd like to use that energy in our lives. So, I'm sorry, what was it in the 5th house?
Moon in the 5th house.
Moon in the 5th house. Oh gosh. So let's move on to the 5th house, and I'll come back to your question, Martin. So the 5th house associated with Leo is about creativity. So if we want to learn about our relationship with creativity, we look at the 5th house. So that has to do with any creative endeavor. It's not just, say, for example, the arts, although it does include the arts, but it's any form of self-expression, and it's anything that gives you juice, because this creativity is basically about jivatindriya. It's about life force. It's about juice. So that could be something like sports, for example, or it could be something, just anything that you love is likely to manifest in the 5th house or be shown in the 5th house. And the ultimate act of creativity is children. And so children, our relationship with children, maybe how we act childlike, our inner child, those are shown in the 5th house too. Another thing that is very much about creativity and spontaneity is love affairs and romance. That's when we're feeling really creative, when we're really being spontaneous and joyful. So the 5th house also rules sex and love affairs. So if you should by any chance have any interest in any of these subjects, you can, remember we're talking about juice, right? So look to the 5th house for more clues on what this is like in your life and what this could be like. Especially if as I'm describing this, you're thinking, what the heck is she talking about? Then there's really a lot of gold waiting there for you to discover. Yay. Okay, so the moon is about, back to Martin's question, the moon is about so many different things. It's about our relationship to our mother. So if we have moon in the 5th house, maybe she had a lot of children, maybe she was a very creative person. It represents our mother, it represents our relationship with our mother. As an extension, it represents our body. Our body was part of her body. Our body is our inheritance from her, so our relationship with our body. Martin, I'm not sure if you have Moon in the 5th, so you are a semi-professional athlete, so that would be very much Moon in the 5th house, that form of getting juice, expressing yourself through your body in the 5th house. Feelings also represented by the Moon, again, related to our relationship with our mother. Feelings, nurturing. So I know, Martin, I feel the closest connection with you and your Moon when you are flipping pancakes in the kitchen and you're making pancakes for a dozen people. You kind of are master of the grill and you're just cranking them out, and you've got this amazing joy state on, and you're just loving sharing all this food and nurturing with people. So that's a great snapshot of Moon in the 5th house also. So those are a few examples, and you can follow up, Martin, in the chat if you have more questions, or we can talk about it another time. You're most welcome to follow up that way too. Okay, so let me give an example. Let me give some examples. So I have Pluto and Uranus in the 5th house, and those are two very heavy planets. The outer planets we call the heavies because they move very slowly, and they have very powerful impact on entire generations. And so Pluto is transformation through destruction, and Uranus is transformation through revolution. So another reason why we call them heavies. And this is my relationship with creativity. I most like art that has a really big impact on me, that really provokes me to think deeply and requires me to think deeply and kind of challenges me to the core of my being. And my relationship with creativity, with the arts, is like that too. I find the arts very challenging, and I can't just play music. I have to sort of unravel my inner psyche in order to play music. So that's another example of, I think some people have a much lighter relationship with creativity, or more joyful relationship with creativity, but because I have Pluto and Uranus there, it's all about deep transformation. So that gives you a feeling for how these things manifest really differently depending on the different configurations that we have going on there. Yes, Ava.
I have a question about, that's interesting that the outer planets are called the heavies.
Oh, that might just be my name.
Okay. Because I was wondering, like the sun, like we when we ask people about their astrology, it's like the sun is always what we start with. Mm-hmm. And so why is the sun, like, I guess it's the most important part of someone's chart, or like what is it about the sun that we...
Yeah, great question. So the sun represents our essence. It's like the fundamental manifestation of how we show up. And all of the other things in the chart, sort of like the solar system revolves around the sun, similarly, everything else in our chart rotates around the sun. The sun's for sure the most important single thing, but it's really the relationship with all the other things that really defines who we are. So on the one hand, it's the most important, single most important thing, but on the other hand, we have to keep everything in mind and look at all the inner relationships to get a complete picture. So that's why we can have, say, someone who's a Leo but acts very shy or is introspective, right? Because they have lots of other things going on that are affecting that Leonine tendency to be the center of attention. So they probably, like a shy Leo, probably finds other ways to be the center of attention, quieter ways, right? And that's super if that person is happy with that, right? And that's the big question, is who do we want to be in this lifetime? How do we want to be? And with AstroDharma, we really suggest that it's a deep inner longing of each and every one of us to dedicate our lives to the benefit of all beings, because all the wisdom traditions in the world have found that that's really what makes people happiest, and that's really what makes a life worth living. Yes, ma'am.
We have a question from Dan, our new Karma Yogi.
Hey, Daniel.
So Dan is a Leo sun.
Uh-huh.
And he's asking, how does a Leo get over their laziness?
How does a Leo get over their laziness? Gosh, that's a good question. That's a really good question to be asking. A Capricorn, which I am, and Capricorns are known for being diligent. Yeah, I think, and fear not, I have Leo in my chart too. I have gone through lazy periods in my life, and I have lazy tendencies too. It's not like we have certain... So this is an important point. We've all got all the qualities, so it's just kind of a balancing act, and it's like playing an instrument. We just kind of, I haven't been playing this octave very much, so we just kind of develop the habit of playing that octave more. So the only thing we can really do is bring awareness to it. So just looking for when we're lazy and how we're lazy, and does it actually feel good to be lazy? I would suggest that a lot of the time it doesn't actually feel that good to be lazy. And how does that affect your relationship if you're being lazy and other people aren't? So if we kind of look at these things with awareness, a lot resolves itself, right? So if we notice we're being lazy and we kind of look at how we feel and we realize I actually don't feel that good laying on the couch again, then we're more likely to get up and do something. We can also ask people around us for help if we would like to be less lazy. Could you point out to me when I'm being lazy and, give me something to do? That's why it's nice to be surrounded by supportive people who we can trust to do these kinds of things kindly and hopefully skillfully. So feel free to follow up, Daniel, with that question in the chat, or we can talk more about that later. Daniel's also just signed up for our 3-month Karma Yoga program at Clear Sky, and that's great training for someone who would like to learn to be less lazy, because it's a semi-monastic kind of setting, and so a lot of what we do is about learning wholesome discipline in a beautiful way, right? Where we're engaging with wholesome things for the benefit of all beings, and learning to direct our will towards that and our energies. Yes.
So we have a question from Sarah, and she says, "Hi again."
Hi again.
Sarah is a Virgo, Veronica is a Leo, and Corey, her partner, is a Sagittarius. How does that look like as a family?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. So for something like that, Virgo, Leo, and Sag, that's the kind of thing where you really want to look at your entire chart, and charts in between, relationship charts, synastry is really interesting. And so is looking at generations of charts. So I really recommend anyone watching, if you're able to get the birth dates, times, and places of people in your family, it's quite fascinating. I had the charts of my mother and 2 sisters, and my astrology teacher thought that they were all the same chart. If you kind of just glance at them, they look very similar to one another. And interestingly, they look a lot like my paternal grandmother's chart. So my mother's not related to my paternal grandmother, but it makes sense that my father would marry someone who is like his mother. We often do that, right? We choose someone, our parents are kind of our role models for what a man or woman is like. So it's very normal for us to choose a life partner with those qualities. So if you like, you can bring your charts sometime, Sarah, and we can look at that together. It's a fun thing to do. That's one of the things that we do here at the Clear Sky Retreat Center. In our free time, we'll pull out people's astrological charts and talk about them from an AstroDharma perspective. And it's great because we get to know one another, we see one another, how we manifest, we see patterns, and then we can spot them in the astrology chart and sort of be like, oh, remember that time when you said this or we're doing that? That's a good example of this placement here. So welcome to come on down to Clear Sky. You'd be welcome here, and that's one of the many ways that we have fun. So once more, this is a Facebook live stream on Leo. Welcome. The sun, it's Leo's ruler and the associated 5th house. And if you'd like to learn more about AstroDharma, please check out planetdharma.com/AstroDharma for some free gifts to you.
2 final questions.
Yes.
So one from Ellen Russell, who says, I don't have so they don't have their chart, but there's sun in Scorpio. Going through an unusually lethargic time and wondering how one relates to that.
An unusually lethargic time. Okay, so there's a couple of possibilities when we're going through periods of lethargy. So one is that it's an important time for us to turn more inward and do some deeper self-examination. We may have had a period of a lot of exploration or a lot of activity, and we need a slower period to integrate everything that we've done and learned and those experiences that we've accumulated. And that's a really fruitful time. As one person put it, there's peaks and there's valleys, and the peaks are really exciting, but the valleys are really fertile. So that's one possibility. The second possibility is that sometimes our natural energy, the way that we would like to manifest, can be blocked. Maybe we are coming up against a challenge, something that we need to resolve in our lifetimes or in our psychological makeup, and maybe we feel like we don't have the resources to do that, so we just aren't. And that can really, it blocks our energy, so we can just feel really dull. And so this is the kind of place where something like AstroDharma can be really useful, because then we can look at what those blocks might be and what our options are for working through those. So thanks, Ellen. That's a great question. And if you'd like to learn more about that, looking at planetdharma.com/AstroDharma will give you some more resources to help you with that, if that's the one. And if you're in a period of integration, well, that can be joyful too. Certainly the fruits of either will be great.
And our final question for today is, Kara says, love your Leo look and the jungle backdrop. So Kara,
being feline, right? Jungle kitty, Leo.
Kara says that, so Leo is completely within her 3rd house. It's not a cusp of any house. So what does that mean? She doesn't feel particularly connected to Leo qualities. And then she also adds that there's Pluto in the 5th house in Libra, conjunct Saturn in the 6th house in Scorpio.
Okay, let me break this down. Okay, so your first question is about Leo in the 3rd house, and the cusp is not. Both cusps are in the 3rd house, so that's what's called intercepted, when an entire sign is kind of engulfed in an entire house. So when we have the cusp, the line of a sign inside a house, it's kind of like a trigger, like it's kind of like a ping. So that sort of activates that sign. And when a sign is intercepted, it's not getting that ping. So it can be just needs a little bit more active exploration for us to tease that out, because that's not going to happen on its own, because the cusps are engulfed by that house. So that's just something to know. That means that, Leo in the 3rd, there's going to be a lot of creativity through communications, which is what the 3rd house is all about. And I think knowing you, Kara, as I do, you do definitely manifest that. you're a web designer, website designer, you like to do videos, you like to play around with Canva and do those kinds of marketing things, and you have a natural flair for it. So that's an example of how that Leo in third house shows up. Let's see, what was it? Pluto in the fifth in Libra? Is that right?
Conjunct Saturn in the sixth in Scorpio.
Okay, so again, Pluto is transformation through destruction. And in the fifth house, that's going to be linked to creativity, maybe also children, also love affairs and sexuality. And then it's in Libra, Libra's a really pleasant sign. Libra is the natural diplomat of the zodiac. So meanwhile, Pluto likes to tear things down. That's more Uranus. Pluto does tear things down because it's transformation through destruction. So there's a natural dilemma there, having Pluto in Libra that's shared by your whole generation. So there's this like deep longing for peace, which is Libra, and then let's start over, right? Because Pluto's not afraid of destruction because it realizes that makes room for new things to be born. So you may experience this dilemma through your creative pursuits because it's fifth house, and also maybe through your sexuality or your romantic relationships. That's an interesting dance, and shows the challenges that we all face in this lifetime is to get these seemingly contradictory energies to play well together, or at least fruitfully together, and to be able to lean into that. Fortunately, with the fifth house, you can draw on all that creativity to do that. So conjunct Saturn in the sixth in Scorpio, that's about the sixth is about our vocation. So Saturn, there may be some perceived blocks around your vocation. Saturn in the first maybe half of our lifetime, we usually experience as blocks. We often project them onto an external authority and we feel like they're blocking us. But really what it's challenging us to do is to become our own masters, our masters of ourselves, masters of our own lives, and become our own authorities. So with you in Scorpio, that's going to be a lot about inner work, inner transformation, and that works really well with that Pluto in the fifth house. But that's a really juicy placement, both for creativity and for vocation. So there's a ton of potential there, and we can explore this further sometime here at Clear Sky, if you like. Does that mean we're at time, Ava? Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've had as much fun as I've had exploring Leo, the sun, and the fifth house. Once more, we love to be generous because it's so much fun. And if you'd like to learn more about AstroDharma, please check out planetdharma.com/AstroDharma for some free gifts to you to learn more and ways that we can continue to stay in touch on this exciting learning exploration journey. After all, we are the heroines and heroes of our own hero's journey. So let's enjoy doing it. And may all of our efforts benefit all beings.